At 70, I'm back on the bike after a break that lasted almost 30 years, and honestly, it's been fantastic. But coming back to cycling at this age, it's not just about getting on the bike, it's about letting go of who you were, embracing who you are, and learning a whole new way to ride. Hi, I'm Peter, and this is And Beyond, Cycling Through Midlife, where I share my journey as an older cyclist. I'm in St Kilda, Melbourne. To really understand why I came back, we need to go back to where it all started. As a kid, I wasn't good at sport, but I always wanted a bike, and I pestered my dad until he bought me one. Once I got my driver's license and a car, the bike was quickly forgotten. I didn't ride a bike again until my early 30s, a bike very similar to this one, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I bought a cheap mountain bike and a set of lights, let me ride through winter, and I started riding 10, then 15, then 20 kilometres on quiet country roads. I organised group rides with friends. Within a year, I'd outgrown the mountain bike and I upgraded to a second-hand 80s Gitane, similar to this one. My rides became faster and longer. My favourite was a 60 kilometre loop out from Queenscliff, where I lived, an hour and a half from Melbourne. There were no traffic lights, barely any cars, and smooth, straight roads. Eventually, I had a custom road bike built, steel frame Shimano Ultegra group set. I felt like I was flying and I was hooked. I became a solid endurance cyclist and loved to ride at tempo. I'd push myself hard, but I wasn't competitive. Riding on my own most of the time, I like to find my own rhythm and pace, aiming to average 30 kilometres an hour even if it killed me. I started to acquire the accoutrement of a cyclist, bike shorts, jersey, and even a heart rate monitor. I just ride with no structured training. I did enter a race, the Vets, for those over 35. I got dropped straight away and never went back. The Geelong Highway Challenge became my favourite ride, 160 kilometres, 2,000 metres of elevation. Wherever I went, I'd try to ride. The Adelaide Hills, country New South Wales. After a wedding, I rode home 120 kilometres with a brisk tailwind. That's a ride I won't forget in a hurry. There was a 24-hour relay that covered 520 kilometres, and I participated in the Great Victorian Bike Ride, a multi-day event around the state with maybe 1,000 riders, probably more these days. I often rode home from work 30 kilometres. I'd ride when I could, even though at times it was infrequent. At one point I joked, I bought a cheap bike, then a better bike, then a really good bike. Then I bought a bike shop. I was all in. The shop was small, it's in a quiet suburb of Geelong and hadn't changed since the 70s. I ran tours along the Great Ocean Road, and if you've been there or ridden there, you know how spectacular it is. We had weekly road and mountain bike rides, and I even organised and led 2 cycling tours around Bali. One descent I won't forget, 30 kilometres downhill from Badoogal to Lavina Beach, 1,500 metres of elevation. Absolutely breathtaking. Eventually the custom bike was stolen, sadly, and I closed the shop, and while I enjoyed the experience, it wasn't financially viable. I moved to Melbourne, and with work and other commitments, I virtually stopped riding. Also, big city roads are scary, dangerous, which put me off. And I missed the quiet roads that I was used to. I only rode a dozen times over the next 30 years, and until recently I had this bike for more than 20 years, a mid-1990s Carrera. Steel frame, Campagnolo components, a beautiful bike, and it's now considered a classic. 2 years ago, I started to wind down full-time work. This was my chance to start riding again. I rode the Carrera a couple of times, but it was built for speed, not comfort. It felt too small, and I struggled to climb even my local hill. Then I discovered gravel bikes, a revelation. That would be the answer to my fear of city roads. I imagined idyllic, quiet, safe roads rolling through the, did I say, safe countryside. On my first ride, just for a moment, it felt like the old days because I was flying. But age had definitely caught up with me because I had a tailwind, which contributed 100% to that youthful feeling. That's the story of how I got back on the bike after all those years. But what I've learned since then about my body, about age, about modern cycling, and about mindset has been just as important. That's all in part 2, where I'll dive into the tech, the training, and the unexpected lessons from cycling at 70. If you're enjoying the journey, I'd love it if you'd like, subscribe, and share your story in the comments. I'm Peter. Until next time.